Hi everyone, welcome to my next video. I'm very passionate about everything I talk about, and I received another question in a comment that I absolutely look forward to talking about. And sometimes a question reminds me of something I did years and years ago, and I love it because it makes me even more motivated to share how I would like to respond. And this was in regards to how do I, and I don't remember exactly how they put it, but how do I remain optimistic, especially when something goes horribly wrong? Now, I've always had a very, which I now believe is a very kind of unique way of thinking. I don't know why, it's just how I am. I've always been this way since I was a kid. And there's Sheppy chasing something. I've always been very focused on my own thoughts and my own creativity and my own determination. And that very well might be because of how I was raised in a very troubled scenario, but maybe not. Maybe I would have been the same way anyhow. And if you hear trucks, there's some kind of construction going on out in the forest. Now, how do I stay optimistic? Well, I don't always. Sometimes there are things that happen that are challenging. And in the past, there have been times when I have been completely overwhelmed. However, I always tell myself there's a way out of everything, and even if I don't know the answer now, I will figure it out. Now, I'm going to tell you something really funny, and I just thought of it when I read that comment. And this is an example of how I've always been. When I was a little kid, I wanted to run away from home. Now, maybe many young children want to because maybe they didn't get their cookies or they didn't get to do what they wanted. But mine was deeper than that. It was a violent situation that I wanted to escape. And I remember, now I had a tricycle, so this goes way back. I remember looking at the street we lived on. And this is going to sound really strange, but it's actually pretty profound. I remember looking at the street we lived on, and I didn't know where it went, but I knew it connected to another street. And I knew that that street connected to another street. And I knew that if I followed all those streets, they would take me to another place. And that other place could be a whole lot better than where I was now. Now, I remember I actually did get on that tricycle, and I did try to run away. And my mother found me the next block over and brought me home. But I will never forget how I knew or imagined a better place, and all I had to do was follow those streets. Now, metaphorically, and I hope this makes sense, what I was doing was telling myself that there was a way to find the answers I was looking for. And I was using those streets, yes, in the physical sense, because I did want to run away. But the more I think about it, you can use that as a metaphor, as a way to follow thoughts, ideas, suggestions, possibilities to find your way to a better place. So, how cool is that? Because I've always lived this way. And actually, when I was 19 years old, I ended up leaving an abusive relationship in Massachusetts and getting in my car and driving 3,000 miles to California, where I started a new life. So that analogy was always in the back of my mind, that even though I didn't know where I was going, I was going to make the effort to find a better place. And in a way, it was better. In a way, it wasn't. But I definitely changed my life, and I learned a lot. Now, back to how I always remain optimistic. And this goes back to being overwhelmed in difficult situations growing up. I realized that it was a choice. I could either think the worst, act accordingly, wallow in self pity, feel helpless, do nothing, just let things continue, or I could make the choice to make the effort to be optimistic. And it does take effort to be optimistic, because once you've chosen to do so, you have the obligation to take those measures. And maybe that's why some people don't, because it's easier to do nothing sometimes. And I see people doing that all the time. And I'm not finding fault with people. I'm not finding fault at all, because I understand that insecurity and fear is behind much of that. And especially in today's world, when things are getting so darn difficult, that fear is not only a part of perhaps our way of thinking, but we're being surrounded by it by other fearful people. And that only exacerbates our own insecurities. And what is it called? Mass mentality? When you read or listen to all these YouTube videos, watch out for this. This might happen, or that might happen, or this is really bad, watch out. Well, they're instilling fear, and they're creating chaos before it even happens. And they're encouraging you to be fearful. And I just refuse to cater to that mentality. There are so many powerful things you can do with your life when you're optimistic in the face of desperation. And I have done many things myself, for myself, when I was totally desperate and no one cared enough to help me. And maybe I did feel sorry for myself at times, but it didn't last long, because feeling sorry for myself wasn't going to get me anywhere. And to this day, as I live out here in the woods and I'm getting older, I am not going to ever feel sorry for myself. I'm going to be optimistic for the future. Why? Because I can. Because I've chosen to. And even if something horrible happens, I'm still going to be okay. Why? Because I'm going to figure it out. What? I don't know yet. I won't know until something happens. If something happens. And in the meantime, I'm going to be optimistic about everything. And I avoid people who are not. So that hopefully is an answer for you. And I also believe that people who are losing their faith in being optimistic are losing their belief in themselves. And they're being encouraged to do so by the internet. And they're being sucked into these fear-based videos, believing that they're true, when the only truth is your own truth. And that's a whole nother video. Because someone else's reality is not yours, and you don't have to buy into it. Just because someone says something is true doesn't mean it is. And it might be true for them because they've created it, but you don't have to accept it. You don't have to live it. And you can certainly make your own truth. So there you go. I have always lived this way, so it's very natural for me to talk about this. And my father used to make fun of me for being so positive. He laughed one day, and I remember so many things from my past. He laughed at me one day, and he told me that I had rose-colored glasses. Now, I'm not sure what that means, but I think it means that you're always optimistic even when you shouldn't be. Well, who made that up? Who cares? You can be whatever you want, however you want. And your mind was given to you to use it in whatever way you choose. And because our minds are so very powerful, beyond our understanding, that it is so sad and tragic that we will give up the power in our minds to believe someone else's nonsense. And I don't know why I am the way I am, but I so encourage all of you to create your own realities. Create your own optimism, regardless of what's going on. And I have had many difficulties, as some of you may have read in my book, I See the Elephant. But I was optimistic even when there wasn't any reason to be. I was optimistic even when I didn't believe in myself. Because I told myself that even if I didn't believe myself today, maybe I would tomorrow. And does that make sense? I don't know. But it gave me that one thread of optimism, and that was all I needed. So there you go. Optimism is a choice. And one more thought about optimism is that you will find other people will want to pull you down because they don't like your optimism. For whatever reason they have. And I choose to, now I choose to ignore them or politely thank them and try to offer something positive in response. But in the past, I did let it bother me. And their negativity was like a dark energy that hit me. And it used to really, really affect me until I realized that I could tell myself what they had to say didn't matter. They were being them, and I was going to be me. And I was not going to let them destroy my optimism, no matter what. So if you have something that you're working on and others are trying to discourage you, you owe them no explanation. You owe them nothing in terms of why you're thinking the way you do. And my best suggestion is to just thank them for their opinion and continue on doing what you plan to do. No drama, no conflict, no differences of opinion as a potential argument, because who needs that? And what's the value in that anyway, right? So I hope this video was helpful. And optimism is a choice. Everybody can do it. It's very easy. And it's there for you. It's there for everyone. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you're all having a really great day. And please let me know in the comments if this was helpful for you. And ask me questions about more specific things in my life that I had to endure and what I did and how I continue even when things go wrong. So thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you're all having a really great day. Take care.